right, Shalom. This is Brother Mayim coming at you from GMS Tampa Bay. First and foremost, I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash, Salakia. Double honors to the elders apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth who are diligently pushing out His truth and sincerity. And I just want to do a quick video on a conversation that I overheard or was overhearing at the crib. And, it was a conversation, amongst some family members. And, I could just overhear because all I heard was the mark of the beast, And as I'm listening to the conversation, I couldn't help but laugh. Because for the longest time, here it is, the Lord's will we be a part of that number. The prophets have been out here, telling the world about the very same thing that these people are now having conversations about. Okay? The same things that these people are now coming out and brothers see it, it ain't just, amongst family members or amongst close circles to you that may know or remember the things that you used to tell them. It's amongst, Christians, it's amongst, people online, on social media, so on and so forth. You have a lot of people now speaking on the very same prophecies that the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have been, out on the highways and byways prophesying of. Okay, and that's one of the main things that we've been speaking on is this RFID microchip, or this digital world that's getting ready to be brought upon the earth, which the RFID microchip will be that badge. Okay, just like you need a badge to get into work to certain facilities, all right, you have to have that ID badge with the proper clearances to enter in and to particular parts of the buildings, certain offices. Okay, so just like you need that badge for those things, there's going to be a badge for an everyday life here very soon. And it's not just going to be in America. This is going to be brought to the entire earth. Okay, like you see right now, you have out there in the UK, they have where they made it mandatory for digital wallets or digital IDs, for work. All right, and you also have where the EU is making it to where Americans, I'm not entirely sure if it's more than just Americans or not, but Americans going into Europe have to have that digital passport. Okay, otherwise they're going to be sent back home. They're not going to be allowed to enter into the country that they're flying into. So this has been a conversation that the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have been saying, and now all of a sudden everybody's become an expert. All right, when here it is, we've been piping onto you, and let me get that in Ezekiel chapter 33. And let me see. Let me just type this in. I'm pretty sure it's Ezekiel. Well, let me get this one in Matthew's. All right, Matthew's chapter 11 and verse 17. Well, I'll start at verse 16. It says, "But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fellows and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented." Okay, and this is what the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have been doing, man. Okay, here it is. The Lord has chosen peculiar men, okay, of the greater sort, to go out into the highways, into the byways, into the marketplaces, all right, into the chief places of concourse, okay, to the agora, so to say, where the majority of people meet, okay, and we have piped onto you, okay, it says, and ye have not danced. You didn't dance. You weren't dancing to the rhythm of the Lord's beat a couple years ago, but now things are starting to become very evident. Things are becoming clear as to what is actually going on in the world, and the only answer is what those guys were saying. now everybody wants to dismiss what we've said and act as if this was their own idea I'm telling you, this is what it's going to be. Nigga, you ain't telling nobody shit that we ain't already been told y'all. Okay? And that's why I was laughing at hearing the conversation, because the way it was coming out as I was overhearing this conversation was as if they're the ones proclaiming this news. Okay? When this song has already been sung onto them, they're just now regurgitating, and it's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, because the Lord does talk about that. You know, there shall be some that believe on Him through their words. So that you're gonna have some people who are gonna, you know, a lot of and actually a greater number of people who are going to believe on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai through the words of the prophets. And you're going to hear them, as we're seeing now, people regurgitating what the prophet said, because they're starting a good portion, or not a good portion, but you know, there is a portion of people that are starting to believe what the prophets have been saying. All right, but real quick, to back up that Matthew 11, this is Ezekiel chapter 33, and I'll start at verse 30. It says, "Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, everyone to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you, and hear what is the word that cometh forth from the Lord." You see, and this is what you've been hearing us speaking on. Okay, this is what everyone has been saying about the prophets. Hey, let's go see what these guys are talking about, or let's ask him questions whenever he comes over next time. Let's see what he got to say about this and what he got to say about that. Right? It says verse 31, "And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them." Right? Because the majority of the time, when the prophets of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai are prophesying onto you, when we're telling you about what the scriptures are speaking on pertaining to the end times, a lot of it has to do with changing your ways, because for you to understand what we're even speaking on, for you to even understand the prophecies, you have to first be able to be humbled, to change your ways, to accept what the Heavenly Father is having come upon the earth. Okay? That's what you have to do. That's a first and foremost. Okay? There is no way of getting around it. All right? There is no other thing that you can say or do, okay, to try to come up another way. You have to, because for you to be willing to change, all right, for you to be willing to change your ways, there has to be a fear of the Lord, and that's the beginning of wisdom. Okay? Which a lot of these people that over the years have heard the words of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, okay, and rejected it, you know, that's because they didn't have fear, because they didn't want to change. They felt that as they were carrying themselves, you know, that was the okay way to go. But now people are starting to see that this world is crumbling, and they no longer feel comfortable with the way that things have been going. So now they're starting to ask questions and try to figure out, well, what is actually going on, and how do I get out of this? And the only thing they always come back to is what the prophets have been saying. So it says, "But they will not do them, for with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness. And lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice, and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do them not. And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them." And so these things that we see now taking place upon the earth, all right, specifically pertaining to the end time prophecies, these people are now witnessing these things. Okay, and you have some that are actually listening and trying to figure things out now. Now they're starting to, that conversation is starting back up. All right, the conversation of the prophets. Okay, so real quick, this is John chapter 17, and John 17 and let me find it. Verse 20, John 17 and 20. Well, I'll start at verse I'll just start at verse 17. Speaking on the prophets, just to get the background. John 17 and 16, it says, "They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world." Speaking on the elect, all right, the prophets, the ones that were given unto Yahushua to spread his message, right? "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth." You see? So the Lord, for the prophet's sake, for the elect's sake, all right, the Lord sanctified himself so that we could be sanctified through the truth. Okay? Because what does this truth do? It sets you free from the chains of darkness, which is this flesh. And you overcome it through the spirit that has been given unto you. Okay? So continuing on, verse 20, "Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word." So these are the times that we're witnessing right now, is you're starting to hear these people that are having these conversations, and you have some of these people that are bringing up these particular points that are starting to believe because they once upon a time heard the prophet speaking on these things. Or they might know a prophet and he's told them about these things, and at first they didn't believe, but now as things are starting to hit the fan, okay, to keep it PG, they're starting to believe now. Now they're starting to put two and two together, and the Lord is working in their minds to make them believe, man. Okay, because again, there is going to be more Israelites outside of the 144,000 men, the prophets, that are going to be delivered, and it's going to be them through believing, seeing and believing. Okay, as Thomas, it took Thomas for him to see the Lord and to feel the holes and to touch him and to see him before him, for him to actually believe. There's going to be a lot of Israelites that they're going to be in that same position, and this is what we're witnessing. Okay, so that's just something that I wanted to get out there real quick, because I just I overheard that conversation, and that's the first thing that came to mind is, hey, it may seem like you want to, hey, we were talking about this a while. Yeah, we were talking about it, but again, there's going to be a portion of people that are going to start to believe because they heard us. It may not have been today, it might not have been yesterday, but once upon a time they heard you, and now those dots are starting to be connected through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and this is the times that we're in. People are starting to realize that the prophets were right, and people are starting to realize who the prophets were. Whether they want to speak up on it or not, they're going to have to soon realize who the Lord was truly dealing with. Okay? So with that, Lord's will, this was edifying. I want to give all the praise and all the glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the elders, apostles of Great Millstone, and much blessing and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth, who are diligently pushing out this truth and sincerity. With that, I say Shalom.